It's proved very, very, very difficult to increase IQ. Very. No one's done it. No one's done it.
I bet if you got rid of brain fog associated with diet, of course I'm going to say this, then you'd bump people to where they should be.
Breastfed babies have an IQ advantage. There is evidence that,
oh my gosh, that's horrifying. Are you serious?
Well, it's in keeping with it. Your brain is a very demanding metabolic organ. If you optimize its function, it's going to work better. That seems to have accruing benefits from birth onward. If you don't get enough to eat and you're stunted in your development physically, you saw this with populations all around the world who never got enough to eat, so the men would grow up and be 5'2", 5'3" instead of the full 6 feet they might be if they had enough to eat. That's associated with intellectual stunting. The best way to protect your IQ as you age isn't to do cognitive exercises. It's actually to optimize your nutrition and to do physical exercises. The brain is a very physical organ, and optimized health is the best adjunct to increased cognitive ability. So, and so I don't think I said, as the questioner indicated, I don't believe I said that IQ is most malleable when you're young. It might be most malleable downward, but it's IQ is very stable across time, very. And it's perverse phenomena. So here's an example. If you take identical twins separated at birth, and you test them repeatedly for IQ as they age, what you'd expect is that their IQs would get more different as their experiences diverge. That isn't what happens. What happens is that as they age, their IQs get more similar until, regardless of how they were raised, by the time they're 60, if you test one twin and the other, they're so similar that it's like you test the same person twice. So
what's the point of doing anything then? Just to play devil's advocate here.
Well, there's lots of things about development that aren't specifically associated with processing speed. No, that's a good question. And to some degree, this questioner was asking that question, right? He focused on intellectual development, which probably wasn't appropriate. Probably, and I think he knows this. He said that he really found motivation in challenging young people to develop themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Progress.
But that doesn't mean they're getting smarter in the IQ sense. It might easily mean that their character is developing and they're becoming wiser, right? And that they're developing, a body of practical, specific, useful information. IQ is most correlated with how fast you learn something. And you can learn something slower and still learn it, right? So what you're hoping for when you're educating people is more character development on the moral side.
Agreed.
Yeah. And his pleasure in challenging kids and putting them on the edge and developing them is actually a reflection, should be more accurately a reflection of concern with character rather than with intelligence per se. Right. You can have high IQ and have poor moral character.
That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
We see that all over America.
We certainly do. And vice versa. You can be a very good person there's no correlation between morality and intelligence. Like literally none. If you think about conscientiousness and agreeableness as the moral categories, it's tricky. Conscientiousness is associated with industriousness and orderliness. Conscientious people can keep long-term contracts. They tend to abide by their word. The correlation between conscientiousness and IQ is zero, right? Which is quite remarkable. It's not what you'd expect, but it happens to be the case. There's no correlation. Like agreeableness is trickier because agreeable people are compassionate and polite, and it's easy to think about that as virtuous. But disagreeable people who are competitive and critical, that's also a virtue. So, but there's also no correlation between agreeableness and intelligence. So character and intelligence are not the same thing, and it's more appropriate to evaluate the quality of a person. It's so tricky because intelligence is so helpful because you're faster, You're faster and broader. And so in a head-to-head competition between two people of equal character, the more intelligent person is going to move quicker. And that's a rough fact. And it's a brutal fact of nature.
But like difference. Also, who cares? You can't do anything about it, so move on.
You maximize you maximize what you have at your disposal. You know, there are other virtues. There are virtues. First of all, intelligence isn't a virtue. It's a responsibility. It's a gift, and it's a gift that, if misused, brings immense cost. Like Lucifer, mythologically, is the spirit of the intellect gone wrong. Right. So, like, high intelligence can be a very destructive force and a curse. Right. It's associated with pride, for example, in the mythological world. So
Agreed.
Lots of people who are smart are very proud of themselves for being smart. That's a very bad idea. First of all, they didn't earn it.
And they're probably not that smart.
Well,
you know, in the greater scheme of like God. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is that to consider.